All advice given is for general information purposes. All legal cases are different, and you should seek the advice of your own attorney before acting or making decisions. No attorney-client privilege applies to communications on this show, and no attorney-client relationship is created by calling or writing in. Attorney Rominger practices only in Pennsylvania and maintains his primary office in Carlisle, Pennsylvania.
Hey, good afternoon. Carl Rominger here. Weekend appointment where I answer your legal questions here on the air. 540-0580, 540-0580. I want to talk to you about a couple of things before I start taking some callers. So if you need to call, 540-0580. I'll answer your question here on the air. This week in the Patriot, there was an article about a Harrisburg man convicted of murder claiming his innocence, where another person had confessed to the slaying. I believe his name was Tyshawn Love. And I'm not going to go into the merits of that case, and I don't know whether he's guilty or not guilty or what the story is, but I read a couple of the comments on the Patriot News website. Somebody said, well, he's probably guilty of something. He probably did it, so what difference does it make? Well, that's not the person I want on my jury, but this explains why all over the place we're seeing it happening again and again, and I just want to highlight something for you. There was a man in Illinois, of course, both these are in Illinois, I think, who was convicted of killing his two daughters and spent 5 years in jail. He confessed. Turns out later on he didn't do it. He says later that he confessed falsely because he had been pressured into a confession by a lengthy and unfair interrogation. And, of course, he's been cleared of it, and the government in Illinois has dropped the charges against him. So he spent 5 years in jail for killing his daughters when he didn't kill them. Imagine how he had to grieve or didn't get to grieve. And that one came with a confession, and it was prosecuted, put in jail, and then later cleared. And then another one, a guy named Kai Fong Lee was driving a Toyota, and he kept complaining that he said that there was a phantom acceleration and that he didn't ram somebody else's car and kill those people. And, of course, the government said, no, he did kill those people. He took his pregnant wife and his family and sped along at 90 miles an hour off an interstate ramp and smashed into somebody else's car because he was crazy, whether he, or he was murderous intent or whatever they said, and they put him in jail for 8 years. Well, he only served a little less than 5 of that. He did 4 years of it. And lo and behold, well, guess what we learned about Toyotas and phantom acceleration recently? And it turns out that his car probably did, in fact, accelerate the same as some of these other Toyota cars had done, and that he was telling the truth the entire time. Well, all the defense attorneys in the world, 12 jurors in each case, judges, appellate courts, all got it wrong. And I just want to point out to folks that when you read in the newspaper that somebody did something or they confessed to a crime or you think somebody's guilty of something, it ain't that simple. There are tons of innocent people lingering in jail right now, and I think it's time we do something about it. Art, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, Carl, my name's Art.
Yes, Art. What's going on, brother?
I'm asking about a neighbor dispute I'm having.
Okay.
My neighbor has tore down an outhouse back in our yard. They're connected. One's connected to the other one.
Okay.
He said he's selling the house, and he said his realtor company told him he's got to tear his side down because he's getting an FHA loan, and there's all kinds of regulations he's got to go through. And he has damaged my property and my side. And what is my rights? What is his responsibility in a situation like this?
Well, he certainly had the right to take down the structure that's on his property. I mean, that's
the union officer told me.
That's the simple answer. However, he has to do it in a way that doesn't damage your property.
That's what I would think.
Did it share a common wall?
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, like it's not all that's left there. It's a wall to my side of it, unpainted, all messed up and stuff,
Right.
And I went out and looked at today this morning, and my side of the roof's caving in.
Huh?
It didn't look like that yesterday when I looked at it, but.
Gotcha. Well, the answer is, theoretically, he should be responsible for repairing it. Of course, each side's going to bear their own legal costs. So here's the problem.
Yeah.
If it costs you $500 to sue him, it might be cheaper to buy $100 worth of materials and fix it up yourself.
Why would that have to be the person's responsibility that had nothing to do with it?
Well,
I didn't...
Art, back up. I'm not the one who decided all these things. It's been a couple thousand years of English law translated into American law. But here's the way we work. When two people have a complaint, they can both go to court.
Yeah.
Each side doesn't have to bring a lawyer, but if they choose to, they bear the expense. They also have to pay the filing fees, etc. And so absent a express contract that allows for attorney's fees or one of the rare statutory actions which wouldn't apply in your case, each side bears their own cost. I guess the theory is the law does not be disturbed by minimal things that are cheap, more easily fixed and more efficiently fixed by self-insuring. And so when a guy rolls into my office and says his carburetor was repaired wrong and the mechanic just owes him $140, the easy answer is you don't want to hire me. You want to get the heck out of my office before you end up spending $200 just to file some paperwork and just go pay for it. So that's the answer. You have a legal right to pursue, and you could go to small claims court.
Yeah, they told me it cost me $70 for a filing fee and for $500 and $85 for $1,000.
Yeah, yeah. So my advice is it's probably best just to fix this thing up yourself and be glad that the neighbor's moving away.
That's what I was thinking. It's just an outhouse. It's a 104-year-old home. How many houses have outhouses anymore to begin with?
Right. And,
I just feel like something's there. It's there for a reason, and he just solved this problem, by saying, well, I'm going to solve a problem by just tearing something down. That's what he does all the time. But he's a young man. He has a lot to learn in life, and that's the way some people are.
Like I say, the good news is he's moving away, Art. Art, brother. Take care.
What about these flat fees and fee consultations? What does that mean in a phone book?
Free consultation means that the lawyer will talk to you for free for a little bit. A flat fee consultation means the lawyer will charge you a flat fee to come in and talk with him.
I just got one general statement that you were talking about before about people getting arrested for different things.
Yeah.
My theory on this is all cops, judges, and prison guards are more corrupt and dishonest than over half the people they arrest. They can lie to you. They can say, the cops can say, I got a video of you doing something, and they don't have a video whatsoever.
Well, and Art, I'll address that. I'm going to address that during the bonus hour. I can talk a little bit about the rules of police interrogation. Well, and I will talk about that. Just to remind you and the other callers, 540-0580. And, of course, you can keep calling from 3 until 3:45 because we're going to do that bonus podcast hour. Art, I got to take some more callers. Take care, brother.
Yeah, you're very kind. You're very kind, Carl. And at least you don't have dollar signs in your eyes.
Well, you can't see on the radio. Maybe I do. I don't know. All right, Art. Talk to you later.
Have a good and golly day.
Shane's nodding his head. Yes, he can see the dollar signs reflected in my glasses. Cindy, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. What's your question?
Hi, I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
If the bank is the executor of a will, how long do they have to settle?
Well,
there was no real estate involved. There was nothing but annuities, and half of the annuities have already been accounted for in the estate.
The short answer is they've got to settle it up pretty quickly. The long answer is they do have to wait a reasonable period of time to make sure that there's no additional creditors out there, etc. They have to do publication, which I assume they already did. How long has the estate been opened?
5 months.
5 months?
It could be up to 2 years.
If it's just a bunch of money and there's no real estate to move or anything?
No personal, but there was nothing else, just annuities.
Yeah, it should be able to be straightened up pretty quickly. Then I usually tell people 6 months is normal for simple, let's say, a year for a more complex matter. And usually the only hang up is there's some asset we just can't seem to get sold.
No, there is not yet.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
But the long answer is, again, just like I told the guy before you. I mean, you can start litigating and say they're not doing their job. And that's only going to cost you money. Probably the easiest thing to do would have someone like myself talk with the administrator from the bank and just find out exactly what their timeline to get it done is and why. And
It's PNC.
Yeah, I was going to say, but they're the only executor, I guess, in the will left PNC is
and there was only 2 people on the will, but some of the annuities got left where there were 6 people.
Gotcha.
But, I mean, we got it all straightened out. It's just a matter of someone that sold him annuities, he shouldn't have sold him these annuities. So
yeah,
it's very messed messed up. They took advantage of my grandfather big time.
We see a lot of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they took advantage of him. So.
All right, Cindy, I got to go to break. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. 540-0580. I'll see you after the break.
On WHP 580, let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here. 540-0580. Shane says I look angry today. And I told him I am angry. I'm very angry because I keep reading in the newspaper day after day about people who get out of jail who did nothing wrong, who've been there after a relative died, particularly a loved one, and told that they did it, judged by 12 people who gladly listened to the evidence and determined that they did it. And they're so sure of themselves. Shame on them. Shame on them. You know what happens? When jurors start doing that, the district attorney will say, well, just use your common sense. Just use your common sense. That's code for, I'm putting them on trial, therefore you just need to use your common sense, they're guilty. And that, like a third of our population out there just thinks that because the police charge you. I go on this website, huntingpa.com, and if you want to check out my posts on there, feel free or comment. I'm always arguing with these guys because this new poaching law is out, and some of these guys are like, well, the poaching law, if somebody poaches, they should lose their guns. Who cares if you lose your guns? Well, let me ask you the question. Where do you draw the line? How about if you don't register for health care, for government-run health care, that's going to be a crime. And we're going to go ahead and say that crime will strip you of some of your civil rights, including your gun ownership. Is that okay? Where do you draw that line? Why is it that we always want to take everybody's rights away permanently? I have no problem imprisoning people. I have no problem punishing people. And I have no problem taking some people's right to liberty away from them, absolutely, by incarcerating them for life or even putting them to death. The flip side is why is it that at 18 years of age you can screw up your life for the rest of your life? And in another county, a different district attorney might have allowed you to plead to something that wouldn't screw up the rest of your life or admitted you to the ARD program. Why is that? How's that fair? How is that fair? So, yeah, I'm angry. Darren, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. Darren. Yeah.
Hey, Carl. Good. Nice talking to you. Yeah, I'm angry, too. I had a situation last night, or you want to say this morning, coming home from work, ran into a Cumberland County DUI task force.
Okay.
And, I know my rules, my constitutional rights, my license, registration, insurance card. That's all I have to give them and say. The police officers are all irate at me, which I could care less. They had me step out of my car, and because I wouldn't answer any more of their questions, which I'm constitutionally have my rights to do, they wanted the keys to my car to move it to a their checkout point. And I'm like, I can't give you the keys to my car. And they're like, you need to give me the keys to the car to move. No, I'll move it. You guys told me to stop and get out of my car. What's wrong with me moving?
Right.
And they're like, no, you need to give us the keys to the car. Like, no, I'm not. It's like, you either give it to us or we're going to move it to the side of the road, get a tow truck, and move it and impound it. I'm like, you can't do that. Like, and I'm, it's about 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm a single no driving, after midnight,
Right.
And when I got all their names and numbers, Carl, I'm irate as anything.
Darren, come see me off the air. I want to know who did this, and I will help you address it.
You want to put me off the air, Carl, and give me a number?
Yeah. Well, here, do you use email?
I don't give that out, but yeah, Carl.
Well, you don't need to give it out. What I'm saying, if you use email, just go to weekendappointment.com. I got my email all over it.
Yeah.
Send me a personal email. It's just Carl, K-A-R-L, at Rominger.com, R-O-M-I-N-G-E-R. I want to know who did that, and then I'll talk with you about it, and we'll address it, because that's bull. Let me explain something to you. They pull you over at a checkpoint, and you're not doing anything wrong. To hell with them, right?
Right.
And I agree with that. I agree with that. Some people go like, well, you should just let them move the car. Yeah, you let them move the car. I'm going to let the government in my car. I'm going to let the government in my house. I'm going to let the government in my life.
Yeah.
Sick and tired of it.
Oh, I am too, and
I'm angry. Everybody's looking at me through the glass because they can tell how angry I'm getting.
Oh, no, I get followed home every time at 1:30 to 2:30 in the morning. I get followed by the cops all the time. And I know my rights. I know my constitutional rights. And, hey, I got out, serve them papers like I'm obligated to. And they want more questions.
Yeah.
pulled me over, and the officer said, hey, we got this all on videotape, so you can see police officers driving everybody else's vehicles down. And, they're all getting irate at me, which I could care less. I could stand there all night. I'm not giving up my constitutional rights. And for me to basically have to give the officer my keys to move my vehicle.
So who won the standoff?
Well, basically, I should have stood there and I had them tow my vehicle, but, I finally gave the one officer the head of the DUI task force there keys to my car to move it about 50 yards to their little parking lot where all the other officers were. And, I just stood there and I wouldn't say another word. And he finally, after about 15 minutes, let me go. But Carl, I couldn't sleep this morning. It's about 2:30. Well, about 2 o'clock. I got home to about 6 o'clock this morning. I went to sleep. I'm all irate as all hell.
Right.
And I got all the police officers' names, numbers, the Cumberland County Attorney General's office in charge of it.
Yeah.
They're all like, well, it's all constitutional. It's like, no, it's not.
Not now. No.
They have the right. They have the right to stop you briefly, according to our Supreme Court,
which is also, I think, an error. But they make the law, and they've said that under certain conditions, a general DUI checkpoint is lawful for a brief
detention to determine if you've been drinking or driving. But here's my deal:
once you roll down the window, and you don't smell like alcohol, and you don't look like you're 3 sheets to the wind,
what basis are they going to get you out of your car and have you move your car for?
It's a money revenue generator for them.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, if they care about DUIs and people driving and, drinking and driving, there's a whole lot of other things they could do that's more beneficial to everybody.
Well, and actually there's statistical studies out there that suggest that DUI checkpoints are actually a complete waste of resources, and that the way you really catch DUIs is with roving patrols, because that way the officers are out rolling around. Because here's the reality, right? I used to go to this bar called Wonderful Wanda's years ago.
And then sometimes we would want to drive from Wonderful Wanda's down to this other bar called the Sierra Madre.
Yep.
If you ever heard of any of those places.
I know where they are.
And the old joke was, if a checkpoint or something was set up, you knew it within 15 minutes in either bar, because everybody knew not to, don't go that way.
Yeah.
So checkpoints
are historically not great methods.
What they are is they're a way for the government to show their force and make their face known and win accolades from their supporters. But at the same time, they're not the best way to enforce the DUI law.
No.
So it's unfortunate that, and again, look what they did. They violated an innocent person's rights. But it's okay, Carl, because they're trying to catch guilty people. I mean, they're going to catch the guilty
people this way. So what's the big difference if we just, lean on the innocent people a little bit? I don't know. I thought that's what we fought a couple hundred years of wars for, and why we got rid of the king.
Well, it's like I told him last night. Well, we got a governor who supposedly likes to travel 100 miles an hour down to Philly. Police escort. Why don't nobody stop him? We got 30 million illegal aliens in this country. When's the last time a police officer stopped, in 41 of them?
Right.
It's just a bunch of hypocrisy as far as I'm concerned. As far as I'm concerned, mine and a whole bunch of other people's constitutional rights were violated last night.
I'm sure they did. And I want you to contact me. I want you to follow through on this, because we're going to have a little fun with it, all right?
No, you'll be hearing from me in about 15 minutes.
All right, brother. Take care.
Yep, have a nice weekend.
All right, bye. 540-0580. I'm angry today. I don't know. That's what they tell me. Wade, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger.
How you doing, brother?
Good.
Here's the question of the day. I have a patentable product that I have been using for the last 4 years.
Okay.
It's been in a non-profit hospital. I did it on my own time. Do I need to have a lawyer before I go in for my patent? Due to the fact I've already been using it in a facility and working for a company.
Right. And I think I would go in and see a lawyer
first and work through the issues of
whether or not there's any potential that it was created in
the scope of your employment. It might somehow belong to the other folks.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be a little worried about that.
But if you did it completely on your own time, and you just deployed it in the scope of your employment. I'm not sure.
That's how it was worked.
Yeah. Are they aware of this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't know the answer.
I wanted a good test on it before I actually tried to go for a patent, and under the circumstances that I showed them how it actually worked, they were very pleased with it. I definitely think it's going to go somewhere.
Do you have an employment contract?
I'm a union employee.
Okay. So you want to see your union contract, and we want to just take a look at the job. You know, a lot of times, like if I were hiring you as an engineer at my mega corporation
that I have on the side, where we employ thousands of scientists in research and development in my
dream world, I would sign you into some kind of crazy contract that happened to mention that, by the way, whatever you dream up in the middle of the night, literally, if you wake up in the middle of the night with a eureka moment, you belong to me. And anything you do
that's even remotely related to what we do at the company is going to become property
of the company. What I'm getting from you, it sounds like your job is one where
you probably weren't
you probably weren't contracted to invent these sorts of things.
Absolutely not.
So you'll have a much more plausible story about how you did this in your own time and off the company docket. Whereas
a lot of times, if I work for Google and I work out a logarithm for a new search engine, I'm going to have a really hard time saying that my work didn't influence it somehow.
Okay.
All right, Wade.
It's completely out of my realm as far as what I do for a living.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's probably a pretty fair argument that you did develop it
100% on your own time, and that you just worked out
an agreement with them to test it there.
What type of lawyer do I need to get a hold of?
You're going to want a patent attorney ultimately.
There is a guy
in Harrisburg that goes by. I only know him from the Howard Stern show.
Mark, the patent attorney, but I can look him up for you. He's pretty good at what he does.
Is there any way I can get a hold of him?
Yeah, Wade, why don't you post something on weekendappointment.com asking about that, and I'll get you some referrals on there.
I don't have a computer.
All right, brother.
Look me up. 241-6070 is my off-air number, and I'll see what I can do for you. 241-6070. Okay. I got to go to break here.
All right, brother.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
540-0580. Carl Rominger
here. See you after the break.
Let's return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
540-0580. That's the talk line number. Carl Rominger here answering legal questions and spouting off generally. Heard from a caller a little earlier. Want to talk about DUI checkpoints.
In the bonus hour here, and don't forget, you can keep calling all the way up till about
3:45. Now, we go off the air at 3 o'clock, as you know, but we're live on the air until then, and then, of course, we do a bonus
podcast. If you want to listen to it, you can go to WHP580.com, weekendappointment.com, which is the companion site for this show, or you can go on my Facebook page and get links as well. And if you are a Facebook member, look me up and friend me.
Always happy to join. And, of course, I do have a video
on the website on weekendappointment.com of an actual DUI stop involving none other than me, although, of course, I wasn't DUI, as you'll see. So I feel that other fella's pain. John, you're on WHP 580 with
Carl Rominger. What's going on?
Not bad, Carl. How are you?
Good. Thanks for holding so long.
That's all right. You ought to get Bob on and criticize him. He criticizes you on his show. Anyway, I hope I got a simple warranty question for you.
Okay.
Brief little paragraph. It says, if your frames break under normal wearing conditions, this does not include theft, loss, or extreme abuse, we will repair or replace it free of charge one time.
Okay.
My glasses, the screw come out, and the glass part disappeared on me. I don't know. I put them on to read something. It was blurry. I thought, boy, these glasses are getting bad.
Right.
And I
lens.
And they said it's not covered because I got to pay 50%.
Do they cover the frames only, or the whole glass?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I read it to you.
Yeah, it sounds like it only covers the frame. That sounds like the dilemma.
Well, the screw come out of the frame. If the
yeah, well,
I want to
lost my glass.
Well, I understand. That's what we call an incidental or consequential damage, and it sounds like the warranty just covers the frame itself.
And so if you look at it, and you probably, if you pay attention
when you buy glasses next time, you'll notice something. You really kind of buy the lenses and the frame separately.
Yeah.
And so you got two different products. And I understand what you're saying is,
as a result of my frame coming apart,
I lost my glass. But that's not in the scope of the warranty of the frame. That would be a separate action where you would say that their product was defective somehow and caused this to happen. But it's not something you can pursue as a warranty claim.
Yeah, well, because it says on there about the glass part in the same, it says 10 reasons, but
right.
I'm not going to tell you the company, but it says 10 reasons, and it talks about their glass in there.
Right.
So, I mean, do you think I ought to just tell them that, hey, if you screwed it and come loose, I wouldn't have lost the thing?
You can certainly argue it and see what they say.
Yeah, because, I mean, things are tight nowadays. There's recession, so.
And that's the other problem. I don't know if that's a defect or not. I mean, can a screw come loose? The answer is yes. Is it a defect in the product or the workmanship? Maybe. Or did it just rattle loose with vibration? Do you have a duty to keep checking those things? I don't know. I don't know the answer to all this.
Yeah, it's just normal. It's just reading glasses, but I can't read without them at all.
It's like diamonds,
If you're one of the ladies out there that has a diamond ring, you've got to get those things checked out regularly and make sure the
prongs are okay and the diamond's held in it. We run into that because obviously people really, if they lose a diamond, they flip out.
But you find out that
the ring was built by the jeweler, but they have a certain maintenance schedule built into them. And I don't know. I'm wearing a pair of glasses right now. Take them off. I can see there's little
screws in there. Am I supposed to be checking those periodically?
I don't know. I don't know the rule
on that.
All right, one last thing about Facebook. If my wife contacts you, she's going to want you to be her neighbor in that farm thing.
Oh, no, I don't farm.
Okay.
I mean, I used to take care of a lot of cows and chickens and pigs and things like that
for some farmers, but I've not done the Farmville thing, nor do I have the time.
Thanks a lot,
all right, bye. Everybody's on Farmville.
If you don't know what Farmville is, you're obviously not one of the 80 million Americans who are addicted to those things. Dale, you're on WHP 580 with Carl Rominger. Hey, Dale.
Oh, hi, Carl. Hey, I have 3 comments for you, and I want to get your opinion on them.
Okay. Wrong, and wrong. No, I don't know. Go ahead.
I believe it was Ben Franklin, with what you were talking about earlier. 2 comments Ben Franklin made. I believe one of them was it's better for 100 guilty men to go free than one innocent man to be put in prison.
I don't know if it was Ben Franklin that said that or not, but it is certainly an act. I've heard it said before, it's better 10 guilty men go free than one innocent man go to prison.
But he also said, either him or Thomas Jefferson also said, it is the innocent that need a lawyer. The guilty can lie for themselves. But my comment that I wanted to ask you about was an article that was in the Patriot News Sunday morning.
Yeah.
About the Darlene Ewalt murder.
Yeah.
Where Todd Ewalt was the first suspect.
Yes.
And which Todd said himself he understood why he was the first subject.
Right.
But 2 things happened that caught my attention I wanted to ask you about. One of the things that happened was the police brought in divorce papers, supposedly from his wife.
Right.
He noticed wasn't in his wife's handwriting. And the second thing that got me is the DA made a comment. Now, I can't remember the direct quote, but pretty much it said that as soon as Todd lawyered up, he knew he had the right person.
Yeah. The short answer on that is I've heard district attorneys and police officers say before, well, he wants a lawyer. Why does he want you here? Because I've been there. And the short answer is sometimes people actually just want to be careful and want to know what their rights are. But there is a certain level of suspicion that comes up in law enforcement. But my favorite is my clients will tell me, well, I asked for a lawyer, and of course they kept questioning them, which they weren't supposed to do. But the client will say, and they told me, oh, you don't need a lawyer.
And they say, oh, I want a lawyer. And they go, oh, you don't need a lawyer. I mean, if you need a lawyer,
you're trying to say you're guilty. So that's a normal thing. Whether it's true or not, I think the problem is, the simple problem is most police officers and
district attorneys have everybody they deal with telling them they're innocent, okay?
Yeah.
And so when every guy you investigate, I didn't do it, I'm innocent.
pretty soon it all sounds the same, and you can't tell
which one of the 10 guys really is the innocent one. And so I have a feeling sometimes the fact that somebody asks for a lawyer because they're so used to everybody trying to hide the ball, or at least presumably hide the ball when they actually are guilty. A few people just open up and confess in the first instance that they tend to become a little jaded and
sometimes forget that when the guy says he didn't do it, he might actually mean it. But that's just I think that's a symptom of the job. If everybody tells you that they didn't do it, after a while you're going to kind of be like, well, that doesn't mean anything to me.
Okay. Like I said, I just wondered what your opinion is, because as soon as I seen that, my eyes lit up.
Well, I had a case I was involved in down in Lancaster for a girl one time, and I know guy got shot in the leg, his wife got kidnapped, kid got kidnapped, she got thrown out of the
Mountjoy robbery, the Mountjoy
gang. And of course, I had a defendant in that case who, by the way, was cleared. She spent 10 months
in prison before I got her cleared, by the way. But the young lady
who I got cleared was tangentially involved in a way
which was completely innocent, but somebody was trying to make her look guilty because they wanted to try to get somebody else who was actually involved cleared. So they were, there was something hinking going on there. And to credit the district attorney's office, when I was able to convince them of her innocence, they actually dropped charges. Just took a really long time to do because we had to prove it, so to speak.
They say, well, you don't have to prove your innocence. It's true, you don't at trial. But if you want to try to get somebody out of jail before you get to trial, that's, the best way. You got to get some solid proof of innocence, and that's what I was able to gather. But it took forever. But I read those documents in that case because, of course, I'd gotten them in discovery, and I can tell you the police
had pegged the husband initially, immediately.
There was even a report, like, well, he claims that he was shot in the leg, but how could he possibly have crawled that far? And, like...
You're just reading it, and the first 8 pages of it are basically,
setting up their investigation to have the husband convicted, and then all of a sudden they gather some new information and they lose interest in him. But the reality is, by the way, you're not going to get killed by a stranger. You're not going to be taken out in some random violence. Everybody's always worried they're going to be gunned down on the streets, You are not going to be killed by somebody you don't know. You're most likely...
If you don't have a felony background
and you don't deal in drugs heavily, okay, you're most likely going to be killed by your husband, wife, boyfriend, or girlfriend.
So that's why they're always the prime suspect.
Because they're usually the perpetrator.
All right, brother, I got to go to break.
You too, okay.
All right.
Folks, keep remembering 540-0580, and of course we'll go off the air at 3, but we'll keep taking calls till 3:45.
Dependable, reliable. Return to Weekend Appointment with Carl Rominger on WHP 580.
Hey, welcome back. Carl Rominger here at 540-0580.
While I'm pouring on all the
tales of all these poor criminal defendants, I should represent a guy right now who's been charged with rape.
And the DNA comes back and says he didn't do it. And of course, it came back before he was charged, but the police misread the results because there was 2 different tests done, best I can tell. And the one test excludes him as being the donor of the substance, we'll call it. And the other test just says that he can't be precluded by the
Y chromosome analysis as being the donor.
And so they dutifully go, aha, it must be him because it says he can't be precluded. Then I'm like, boys, slow down. After I got the paperwork,
like, really? Did you read the results? There's 2 separate tests here. And they're like,
no, it says he can't be precluded. I'm like, yeah, he can't be precluded
on the Y chromosome, but the full test says it wasn't his. No, that's not what that means. So you get charged, and then we have to straighten it out.
Go figure how the world really works. So DNA doesn't even seem to help these days. Mike, you're on WHP
580 with Carl Rominger.
Hi, Carl. How you doing?
Good.
I was listening to your DUI discussion earlier.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that the Supreme Court has ruled that if you come to a DUI stop and there's several cars in line, as long as it's not otherwise prohibited, like if you're on a one-way street, you can turn around and go the other way. You have no obligation to go through that DUI check.
You're absolutely correct, and let me tell you how this works out. Because I've had a few clients opt to do that.
And for some reason, they always violate the traffic law when they do that. At least they're seen to have
violated an illegal U-turn, drove erratically
as he tried to turn into drove into a parking lot that was for a business.
This is my favorite one. drove into a parking lot that's for a business at night, which made us suspicious that something was
going on. So we went over to make sure that he wasn't going to rob the business.
Pulled him over in the parking lot. But he's turning around in the
parking lot to get out of the checkpoint that he's allowed to avoid. So, yes, you have the absolute right to do that, and I would recommend it
myself. And in fact, that's what I would do. Actually, what I'm thinking about
doing, I would really like, I'm really toying with this, is to go ahead and hire a private investigator and wire the car up for sound and cameras and send them through a couple of these checkpoints and watch what happens and see how they're really doing it.
But Carl, now you know in Pennsylvania, voice recording without permission of the party
is a felony.
Except the government lost that one. You can record the police while they pull you over.
Did you see the thing that's out right now? A guy that was pulled over on a motorcycle that had a head cam.
No.
By an undercover officer who pulled a gun and never showed any ID. Now they've gotten a search warrant from a judge, gone into his house, seized his computers and other properties, and are charging him with some horrendous raft of crimes.
And the short answer is the police have lost that because the police do not have an expectation of privacy, which is the key
on the wiretapping statute. And so the courts
have said that you can videotape a police officer or secretly record a police officer because they don't have an expectation of privacy in their
public job of pulling you over. So
that guy needs to sue these guys because the Third Circuit's already allowed at least one 1983 lawsuit to proceed on that basis.
I'll keep that in mind because one of the things I like to do is go hunt DUI checkpoints.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe they should exist to begin with.
Right.
And that
you can stand there with a video camera and tape them. In fact, there's a great case where a guy gets pulled over along the side of the highway and a resident comes out to watch the state police
hassle the driver and check his truck out, and the guy brings a video camera, videotapes it, and the police tell him he has to turn his camera off, and he says no, and they arrest him,
charge him with disorderly conduct, and seize the camera.
That's called contempt of cop.
And what they did was they sued him.
They sued the police, and that's the first case that came out that said, no, wait a minute, you as a police officer have no expectation of privacy in doing your job. And in Carlisle,
they pulled over a kid who was recording the police.
And they originally charged him, and then they dropped it because they realized they were going to get their butt sued off.
Yeah, I remember that case. This one just happened in Maryland. The guy was on a motorcycle.
Now that's Maryland. I can't speak to Maryland law, right?
Yeah. And they're saying down there, it wasn't a voice recording. It was a video recording.
Right.
And they're saying that this guy violated all the law, but it's the same thing. There's lots of case law about it.
Hey, Mike, I'll tell you a funny one. There's some scuttlebutt going on down somewhere in Lancaster County, and I don't know exactly where it is, but
basically the police officer tased a driver who he said was unruly and disorderly.
But the driver turned out to be another undercover cop working a narcotics thing.
And now there's like a big dust-up because,
if it was you or me who got tased, well, then it's real simple. It was
a necessary use of force, but apparently this has created some stir because
the one officer's like, I wasn't
doing anything. I went to get my ID out, and he tased me.
And of course, the other guy's saying, he was frantic and disorderly and thought he was going to pull a weapon and Lord knows what really happened, but it's kind of funny.
The other lawyers down there that I was standing outside the courthouse were telling me about it, so that's the quality of the information where I got it, but I'll be curious to see how that turns out.
I had another question for you. It's my impression that if you're pulled over for a DUI, there's some things you shouldn't do. One is you should not take the field sobriety test, and two, you should not take the breathalyzer test, but you should request the blood test. Is that right?
Well, I can go into that in detail, but the short answer is you don't have to take any of the tests, but you do have to take the official
breath or blood test, so you never take the roadside breathalyzer.
But I should say never, because if you're 100% sober, you just want to get the heck
out of there. Mm-hmm. You might just go ahead and blow on it. That said, if you want to see a video, if you go to Facebook, I have a video poster. You can actually just go to weekendappointment.com and see the video of me stopped as I invoke my rights and the police get angry.
Yeah. One of the tactics that I know that cops have used, because I've seen people happen to, they'll give you the breathalyzer test and it comes up negative. And they then say, well, the machine isn't working right. We have to take you in. So what they do is they have somebody where they smell a little alcohol and it comes up negative, and they say, we'll roll the dice. If we take you in and wait long enough, you may go above the .08.
Yeah, that's the because it's a 2-hour window these days. It doesn't matter what your BAC is at the time of driving.
Right.
And Mike, feel free to call back in the second hour here. I'm going to take a couple more callers before we go off the air, but we're going to keep the lines open until 3:45, 540-0580.
All right, thank you.
All right, Mike, thanks.
Bye.
All right, here we go, 540-0580. Jim and Betty.
Hold on, and we'll get you on during the bonus hour here. 540-0580.
Don't forget to call back in. I'm going to keep taking calls till 3:45. In the meantime, if you need to hire me, got a legal problem, whether it's criminal, family, personal injury, let me know. Go to weekendappointment.com, get my office number, my email. Tammy will get you in to see me. Thanks.